First thing you want to do is disconnect the negative cable from your car battery. Disengage both ends of the threshold panel by spreading the edges. Very carefully pull straight up to remove and repeat on the other side. Use a plastic panel tool to remove the snap. Carefully pull the kick panel to the right towards the pedals. 2 small snaps actually secure it. Check for green snaps that may have not come off with the kick panel, and then reinsert the green snaps to the kick panel if any did come off. Remove driver and passenger side rear panels. Loosen weather stripping by hand and remove carefully in an outward direction. Use a 10mm socket to remove the bolt securing the bottom of the seat cushion. Push down on the center of the back side of the cushion to release the locking tab, then remove the bottom seat cushion. Use a plastic panel tool to remove the push-in snap at the bottom of the rear panel. Once that is done, fold down the rear seats. Use a plastic panel tool and remove the 2 push-in snaps at the rear of the panel. Carefully disengage the snaps one by one and pull the rear panel towards you and away to remove. Check the panel for any missing snaps that may be still attached to the vehicle. Make sure to repeat these steps on the other side of the vehicle. Use a utility knife and cut a U-shaped slot approximately 1 inch wide and 2 inches high in the area located here on the passenger side trunk panel. This will provide access for the harness plugs to the amplifiers. Remove the trunk carpet and the floorboard. Use a plastic panel tool to remove the push-in snap on the passenger side of the trunk. Here, install a smaller size speed nut on the mounting hole. Locate the 2-hole bracket behind the passenger side trunk carpet panel. Use pliers to flatten out the bracket behind the 2-hole bracket. Install in position the 1 by 19.5mm speed clip so that it aligns with the 2 holes on this bracket. Use a plastic panel tool to remove the 3 push-in snaps, securing the foam supports between the back seat and the spare tire. Use a plastic panel tool to remove the push-in snap on top of the factory amplifier. Next, lift the foam support up and fold it over so it rests on top of the rear back seat rest. Run the quick sync harness amplifier connectors through the slot previously cut. Pass through one connector at a time to make it easier. Using the factory ground located behind the rear passenger side trim panel, remove the 10mm ground nut and install the harness ground together with the factory ground. Reinstall the 10mm bolt on top of that. Do make sure the harness ground terminal rests on top of the factory ground terminal. Now you want to run this ground wire with existing factory wire and securing it using the provided cable ties.
Route the harness and gain control cable through the channel provided under the foam support towards the driver's side of the vehicle. The gain control cable will follow alongside the wire and harness all the way to the front of the vehicle.
Continue to route the quick sync harness toward the driver's side of the vehicle and secure to the existing factory wires using provided cable ties. Now we want to reinstall both the driver and passenger side trim panels and the rear seat cushions. Lift the carpet by disengaging the white plastic clips in the driver's side threshold area and continue routing the harness underneath the carpet towards the driver's side kick panel area. Reinstall the carpet clips and the weather stripping. Reinstall the foam support, the trunk floorboard, and the carpet.
Your OEM Audio Plus dual amplifier assembly has the majority of the connections already plugged in. There should be no need to remove the amplifier assembly or disconnect any connections. For the sake of this installation video, you'll exclusively be plugging in the power, ground, and main amplifier. Plug the black ground wire of the harness into the corresponding connection on the sub-amplifier. Plug the red or yellow power wire of the harness into the corresponding connection of the sub-amplifier. You'll want to ensure that the metal contact points within these connectors are touching. Plug the 20-pin connector to the system connection of your main OEM Audio Plus power amplifier. These 3 connections complete your 500 series connectivity. Be sure to run the gain control cable with the main harness towards the front of the vehicle to your preferred mounting location.
Now we want to place the subwoofer enclosure in position and install the M6 1x60mm screw on the back side to secure the enclosure. Shifting the enclosure may be necessary to align the holes. Do not fully tighten quite yet. Install the M6 1x35mm quick release knob screw on the front side of the enclosure. Once the subwoofer enclosure is aligned, secure by tightening both mounting screws. Locate the factory wiring harness grommet. It's on the driver's side of the engine bay, adjacent to the brake master cylinder. We want to cut off the tip of the grommet nipple. Return to the driver's side under dash and route the 2 yellow power wires through the firewall grommet. Lubricate accordingly to prevent binding. Run the entire length of the power wire, then pull back by 1 inch, apply a bead of silicone sealant to the wire, and push the wire with a silicone to seal the opening. Install the 1/4 inch corrugated split loom onto the power wires. Run the entire length of the firewall grommet. Run the loomed power wires across the engine bay towards the battery, secure to existing factory wiring using cable ties. Note that you want to run the power wires directly underneath the windshield wiper cowl.
Insert the stripped 10-gauge power wire into its designated butt connector. The A power wire is coupled with the 20 amp fuse, and the B power wire is associated with the 30 amp fuse.
Crimp and apply heat to both butt connectors to activate the solder and heat shrink insulator for the best connection possible. Remove the 12mm top nut from the battery's positive terminal and install the fuse holder ring terminal. Reinstall the 12mm nut and tighten. Make sure not to install fuses at this time.
The gain control cable is designed to install in the end user's preferred mounting location. Some of the most common locations are under the steering column, in the glove box, or in the center console. This gain control knob will allow adjustability of the subwoofer output, allowing you to achieve balance, full, or robust low frequency response.
Make sure you have a protective blanket over the center stack transmission area to protect from scratches during radio removal. Remove the radio trim panel by loosening outer edge by using the plastic panel tool or by hand. Disengage snaps by pulling towards you. Use a 10mm socket to remove the 4 bolts securing the radio. All radio connectors have a locking tab that you must push down to disconnect. Carefully remove each connector, then set the radio aside. Route the quick sync harness under the driver's side dash and towards the radio cavity. The 2 yellow power wires must remain separate on the driver's side kick panel for now. Secure the harness to the existing gray factory wires using the provided cable ties. Route the harness towards the radio cavity until the connectors are visible. Connect the quick sync harness to the factory harness and the radio, 10-pin and 6-pin connectors.
Plug the OEM Audio Plus Quick Sync harness, 10-pin and 6-pin connectors back into the radio.
Make sure they are fully inserted and securely locked in place. Reinstall the radio and the trim panel. Using either a panel or pick tool, disengage the door locking tab here. Remove the small screw cover behind the interior door latch. It is best to remove and set aside to avoid it falling off and being misplaced. Remove the number 2 Phillips screw behind the door latch. Remove the silver trim from the door handle. The tool insertion slot is located at the bottom of the trim. Remove the 2 number 2 Phillips screws securing the grab handle. Next, using your hands or a panel tool, you want to disengage the clips behind the door panel one at a time. You want to start at the bottom, then the sides, and finish at the top. Use gentle force to remove this door panel. Carefully disconnect the window and door lock control connectors from the door panel. Remove the door latch assembly from the door panel by unsnapping and lifting the latch connectors. The connectors need to be reassembled in the same orientation, the white on top, the green on the bottom. Now we just want to set the door panel aside. Disconnect the 6.5 speaker connector. Then remove the 3 Phillips screws, holding the factory speaker in place, and remove the speaker. Mount the 6.5 inch OEM Audio Plus speakers by using the 3 Phillips screws, and then reinstall the speaker connector. Now it is time to reassemble the door in the reverse order, taking time to ensure that all clips have been engaged. Failure to securely reinstall the door panel may result in some rattles.
Dash speaker installation. Remove dash speaker grills. Very carefully disengage the speaker grill on the dashboard using a plastic panel or pick tool. Once loosened, lift straight up and away to remove. Disconnect the tweeter connector, then unclip the tweeter from the speaker grill by pushing away one of the locking tabs. Remove the OEM Audio Plus tweeter from its packaging and carefully apply pressure to the tweeter foam gasket and push outwards prior to installation. Install the OEM Audio Plus tweeter in the same orientation as the factory tweeter by aligning it with the locking tabs. Make sure it snaps into place. Connect the tweeter connector and make sure it is secure with built-in locking tab. Remove the two 10mm bolts holding the factory dash speaker in place. Disconnect the factory connector and install the mid-range acoustic correction inline filter. This filter acts as a middleman between your factory connection and the factory speaker, optimizing the frequency response of these drivers. Reinstall the dash speaker using original factory hardware. Reinstall the speaker grill by sliding in the back end first. Press the front side of the grill straight down until it snaps back into place. Repeat for the other side of the vehicle. Under the hood, complete your installation using the 20 amp fuse for the A power wire and the 30 amp fuse for the B power wire. Reconnect the battery and tighten. This completes your OEM Audio Plus Reference 500 installation.